Hi, guys, it's Dr. Sadaf, and I just wanted to give you an update as to what is going on. So, I have opened up my practice in Chappaqua, New York, and I'm currently accepting new patients. So, I want to invite you to come and become a patient of mine. If you've been listening to this podcast, you've been listening to the episodes, you are finding so much value in all of this. I want to invite you to become a patient of mine and come see the difference with a doctor that actually has time to listen to you and support you through the transitions that you may be experiencing, whether they're perimenopause, menopause, or you're experiencing any type of sexual dysfunction. And of course, I do annual GYN exams as well. So if you're not having any problems at all and you just need a regular exam done, I am more than happy to help you out. So make sure you check out the practice. It's called FemV Health, and the website for that is www.femvhealth.com. And make sure you look that up. The phone number for the practice is 914-538-2534. And make sure that you go and check it out. Check out the website and make sure you book your appointment today. Also, I have just started a new Facebook group. It's called It Might Be Menopause Support Group by Dr. Sadaf Lodi, FemV Health. And I'd love for you to come and join that Facebook group, because in that group, we'll be talking about different ways that you can get support and education as you go through this important transition in your life. It's also about building a community that is going through the same things that you are. Oftentimes we feel that when we go through things in our life that we are the only one, but I'm here to tell you that you are not alone, and that there are so many other women going through the same symptoms that you may be going through, whether it's hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings, vaginal dryness, pain with sex, brain fog, joint pain, dry eyes, any of those things, So come join us in that Facebook group. It's called It Might Be Menopause Support Group by Dr. Sadaf Lodi, and that's on Facebook. So come and join us in that community. And I definitely look forward to welcoming you there. And make sure that if you have any questions about any of the podcasts that I do, that you either DM me or email me, and I will create a podcast just for you, because you are a loyal listener and subscriber, and I would love to answer any and all of your questions. So if you have any burning questions that you are wondering about, please make sure that you email me at hello@femvhealth.com and let me know about your questions, or DM me on Instagram or TikTok, and I'll create an episode just for you. And as always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. As you know, I am looking to get over 100,000 downloads by the end of this year, and I'd love for you to help me out in that endeavor. And so please share and like these podcasts, download them, and let all your family and friends know, because I know there is not much information out there, and some of the information out there is not actually factual. So you want to make sure that you are getting your medical information from a board certified OBGYN that knows and has studied all of this material, whether it's sexual medicine, perimenopause, or menopause. So looking forward to hearing from you. And now to the episode. I'm an American board certified OBGYN, a mom, a Muslim, and I'm talking about sex. This is the Muslim Sex Podcast. Welcome to the Muslim Sex Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sadaf Lodi, and this episode is everything you need to know about the Love and Nourish Retreat that just happened. And before I get into it, as you know, as always, it's not meant to be medical advice, and definitely not meant to be any type of religious advice. So let's talk about the retreat. I just got done hosting the Love and Nourish Retreat that happened September 16th through the 23rd. And I wanted to give you a little bit of kind of insider information as to what we did and what the participants walked away from. So if you are listening to this episode, then perhaps you also watched and followed me on my socials as I kind of did a recap every single day. So I talked about, from the point that we departed from New York to go to Casablanca, to go to Marrakesh, And then, when we returned. But I just wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive and just let you know what people got out of that. So, as you remember, we went to Marrakesh and it was fantastic. So, from the moment that we landed, the people that we were co-hosting with, Caria Retreats, it was like a white glove service. So they picked us up from the airport. They took us right to where we were doing the first part of the retreat, which was it was called Beldi Country Club, and the place I can't even tell you. If there's a place like heaven on earth, this has got to be one of them. I mean, it was gorgeous. It had greenery all around. There were beautiful flowers, little walkways. There was even some stores on site. And it was just absolutely gorgeous. And then once we came in and we checked in and all this, we all had little baskets with our names on it. And it had in there some argan oil that we ended up, I didn't know this, but Morocco is known for argan oil. They have argan trees from which they get the oil. And the seeds actually look like little olive seeds, olive plants. Actually, they're like these little tiny argan seeds, and then they use every component of that seed. So, anyways, they get the oil from there. So we had a little bottle of the argan oil, and that argan oil, depending on, I think, like the type of it, the type of argan oil you get, there's some that you can use for cooking, some that we did like a tasting of, and some people even put like argan oil, so there's different types. But we even had we had a sample of like a massage oil that went with my talk about revitalizing a sexless marriage. And then we also had like chocolates in there and all these little goodies in there. And Dr. Basma first actually brought with her a cookbook that her sister had. Her sister's a chef, and so she brought a book that her sister had just released. So everyone got a book as well. And then from there, we had like a little opening circle. And then as the days went on, we each did like an activity. So Dr. Basma would lecture and I would lecture and we would take turns. So hers was focused on nutrition and all the healthy things that we eat, and also like the Mediterranean diet. And what was great is that we also had a cooking class. So we did two cooking classes, one in Marrakesh and one in Usuria. And each one of those was different. In Marrakesh, we learned how to make a chicken tagine. So I didn't know what this was, but tagine is one of these dishes that Morocco is known for. And it's made with there's different ingredients, but when you make a chicken one, you use one of those preserved lemons. And for me, the preserved lemon, once it was cooked, it almost tasted like achar, which is like this pickled mango that a lot of Southeast Asians use as a condiment with sometimes like their rice or their bread and things like that. But that's what that tasted like. And that was actually part of the chicken meal that we made. So that was, placed in there. And then that flavor was infused because it's cooked with like this little clay pot, and you put the chicken in there and the lemon, and then the flavor is just infused, and some garlic and onions and stuff like that. It was delicious. But we learned how to make that. And then we also, when we went to Assyria, we also did a cooking class where we made a beef tangine. So actually it was lamb, I believe. And that was fantastic. We added like apricots and prunes in that one. And it was the same idea where we cooked in this clay pot and all of those flavors were infused in that meat. So it was delicious. There were also some vegetarian options for those people that did not want to eat meat or that did not eat meat. And so we had separate dishes for them. So that was really great. And we learned all about the different spices that were used in Morocco. And we even went to an herbalist, which I don't know if you've ever gone to an herbalist, but an herbalist in this facility, it was like this little shop. And he basically told us all the benefits of like different types of oils. So there's like an orange blossom oil, there was musk oil, there was ginseng oil, and there was also black seed oil. and all these different oils that were used for different types of ailments, like stress, focus, even sexual intimacy. And a lot of people learned a lot from these, learning about these oils and things like that, but also in traditional medicine. So I think a lot of that, you could consider that homeopathy. And a lot of people bought the oils to help with different things. So I think one of the best sellers was the one on focus and also on stress, the oils that they used. And so a lot of people purchased those. And I think that was a lot of people enjoyed that. We also took some excursions, and we went to local famous places. We visited one of the mosques there, and we also visited a lot of town squares. So there were a lot of these, in a lot of older towns and cities that we don't have as many here in the U.S., but in there was lots of like small little stores. And so I think a lot of countries such as Istanbul, Turkey, Istanbul, in there's also if you go to Lahore, Pakistan, they have like little marketplaces where there's a bunch of different vendors that sell different things. So you had people selling like rugs, you had people selling spices, you had people selling olives. So there was like a big just marketplace of just olives, and the olives were delicious. They were herbed and marinated with different spices. So they were, it was really great just to try different things. And also in those marketplaces, there was like, there was fruit stands and a whole bunch, there was clothing shops. So it was such a beautiful experience. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I had from this whole experience was that, Morocco is such a safe country. It is beautiful. It is so clean, and the people are so amazing. They are so kind and so generous, and always willing to help and welcome you into their homes. When we did the cooking classes, we learned that they focused a lot on love, actually, and they said that when you eat something from somebody that is Moroccan, and when they cook for you, you can tell if it's cooked with love because of the flavor and the taste and the aroma, and all of that kind of come through in the foods, which I thought that was such an interesting take on how you show love for somebody, right? Is that one of the ways is that you cook them. And that's, I guess, it's one of the languages of love, which is acts of service, right? So here, when we did our cooking classes, we learned a lot about just the different spices and foods that go together, but also just about how passionate these Moroccan individuals were. And in this case, it was these Moroccan women that were showing us how to cook, and just the love that they had for the cooking, but also for the guests that they were serving to. And that love definitely came through in the foods that we were served. So it was such an amazing experience. And then, we talked a lot about intimacy and vulnerability and how do we build that intimacy. And I've talked a lot about that on this podcast. And, some of the few takeaways that I think are super easy to do for anyone that's listening to this, something that doesn't cost money at all, is simple ways that you can increase intimacy in a relationship, right? And that is just by holding hands. We talked about this a few episodes ago, but holding hands, cuddling on the couch, sharing a kiss, creating a meal, right? And like we learned in Morocco, that one of the ways to show love to each other is to cook together. And so you can create a meal, make a meal together. Any of these things, take a walk outside together. Any of these ways are just really simple, easy ways that you can create intimacy in a relationship. We also talked about how important communication is in a relationship, and how to be able to have difficult conversations with your partner, with your spouse, are super important to building that vulnerability that you need when you're trying to create emotional intimacy in a relationship. We also talked about the difference between responsive and spontaneous desire. And then how perhaps, just like Dr. Rosemary Basson says, that there's no such thing as spontaneous desire, and that it's really all of it is responsive desire. And how, when we go into a relationship and we're, thinking about the date, or we're thinking about what we're going to do that night, or if you're going on a date night with your partner, you're already kind of priming yourself. You're getting yourself ready in your brain about what's going to happen that night, so that if there is like an erotic stimuli, or if there's an opportunity for intimacy during that date that you're having with each other, that you're going to be more open to it because you've already been thinking about it, right? A lot of times what happens is that we are so preoccupied with everything going on in our lives that we don't really take the time to connect with our partners on a deeper level. And so when we know that we're going to be spending that time creating a very special moment with our partner, then we are already, getting situated in that moment. And so we're already starting to become a little bit mindful. And we know that mindfulness is just being present in the moment without judgment. We also did a lot of mindfulness techniques during the retreat. So I had the individuals look at a raisin. And so that is an exercise that Dr. Lori Brotto talks about. And she talks about really looking at the raisin and examining it, and examining all the ridges and this and that, and then feeling it and listening to it, and then taking a bite and tasting the flavors and all of that, and really using all the senses to really experience what it's like to eat a raisin. And so we use that, and then we use that to extrapolate how we should be when we are with our partners, right? So really leaning in, really taking a listen to our partners, really, and when we're intimate with them, right, using all of our senses, like our sense of sight, our smell, our taste, touch, all of those senses, to really be in the moment, so that just by doing that, you're increasing not only intimacy and emotional intimacy, but you're also increasing arousal, desire, and for some women, even lubrication. And so, that is definitely one way that people can increase desire and, in fact, libido in their relationship. For people that may be experiencing low libido, right? That may be one way that they can increase their desire in their relationship, is just by really being present in the moment and using those mindfulness exercises. The other mindfulness exercise that we used is something it is the author Shirzad Shamin, and he talks about positive intelligence, and he talks about the sage and the judge, and how basically, the judge, that's a part of your brain that is always judging you and being negative and being mean and all this stuff, right? Where we're constantly judging ourselves. Whereas the sage is the part of your brain that is what he calls, more part of like the positive intelligence. And one way to activate that part of our brain is, again, by using mindfulness. And he talked about that technique. And I think I've talked about that technique as well, where, you rub your two fingers together, and you're, really being mindful about the way that the fingers are coming together, the ridges, the lines, the noise, all that stuff, right? And it's about basically embodying the whole experience, about really being present in the moment. So we use those two exercises to really create a sense of mindfulness and show people how mindfulness is really accessible to everyone. And it doesn't take a lot. And it's really that mindfulness can be a part of your meditation, your morning routine, and how it really helps us to be present in the moment. And when we're present in the moment, then that other person feels valued. They feel as if they are an important part of your life. And of course, anytime when somebody feels like they're an important part of another person's life, then that will help to bring them together and, of course, increase that emotional intimacy. So we did a lot of that. We did a lot of workshops on that kind of stuff. And, honestly, we had just such great results. People that were the attendees of this retreat really felt like they got a lot of value from the retreat. They felt that they learned things that they could take back with them home. Not only did they learn how to cook certain dishes, which were very healthy for them and good for their bodies, but they also learned ways to increase the intimacy in their relationship, to be more present in their relationship. I mean, honestly, when I talked about the work of Dr. Lori Brotto and Dr. Rosemary Basson about mindfulness, I mean, you should have seen the participants. Their minds were blown because they had never heard this concept before, and they didn't know about this research that was done by these amazing researchers that have been on this podcast. So for those that are listening that have never heard Dr. Lori Brotto or Dr. Rosemary Basson, you have to go back and take a listen to those episodes where I've had them on, and they speak about, mindfulness and being, Dr. Rosemary Basson talks about the distinction between spontaneous and responsive desire, and Dr. Lori Brotto talks about mindfulness in a relationship and how that improves not only the relationship, but it increases arousal, libido, and desire in a relationship, and also lubrication, and how it helps women with low desire help to increase their desire. So those are really important episodes, and I'd love for you to go back and take a listen to them if you haven't heard them, because it can really help you in your relationship. We also talked about, we did tons of excursions, which was fantastic. We went to an Argonne and an olive tree farm, which was great because we got to see how those, the argan plant and also the olive plant, how they were harvested, and then how their oils were then pressed and taken and manufactured in the plant, how everything is there was done very sustainably, and how people really live off the land, which was, really nice to see. And the foods were just so delicious there. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I miss from that retreat, is just how delicious the foods were. And you had so many vegetables, and just really everything was so healthy. It was fresh. Nothing was processed. It was really delicious. I think some of the other takeaways that people had, not only did they enjoy the cooking classes and they learned about desire, they learned about intimacy, they learned about relationships. They also learned on, what were easy things that they could do, is that they learned about the land, they learned about the people and the people that were hosting us, which was fantastic. We also went to like this fish market on one of our last days when we were in the coastal area, and really saw how they, brought in the fish. And what I thought was really interesting is that, there's this whole idea of community, and that was something that we fostered in our retreat. But what happens with the fish, right? With the fishermen, when they collect the fish, is they bring in the fish. And I think that, our retreat leader, one of them, Miriam, she was telling us that what they started in the country is that, the fish that they harvest, right? So the fish that they get from the water, the freshest fish, they give that to the women that are the widows and that may be there waiting on the dock to sell. So the freshest fish they give to them to sell so that they can support themselves, which I thought was such an amazing concept, right? A way to give back, and so that everyone can benefit from the selling of produce, and so that people are not going hungry. And I thought that was really just a fantastic way to share and to build more community. So I think some of the biggest takeaways from this retreat were, one, building the community, right? I think everyone needs a community. And when you build that community, you realize you're not alone. And that's one of the things that we wanted people to know, is during perimenopause, menopause, and when you may be experiencing some type of sexual dysfunction, that you're not alone, that there are a lot of people going through similar things that you are, and that, to come and share in those experiences. And of course, not only just share, but also learn how to manage and get treatments from people that are there to help you. So I think that was one of the biggest things. The other thing was to learn about the land, learn about the nutrition, learn about all the amazing things that were in the country that we could, eat and take part in, and also enjoy, and really celebrate their culture and their just such an amazing group of people, and really just filled with love and sharing. Is just really amazing. And also I think that it's one of those things that if you go to it, you'll want to keep going back. So I invite all of you, those that followed me on social media and watched the retreat and all of the excursions. Oh, and how could I forget the daily yoga? I mean, we had daily yoga, which was amazing. We had these yoga instructors that were Moroccan that guided us through not only meditation, but the yoga in the mornings. And that was such a great way to not only just stretch our bodies, but also our minds in the morning. So that was fantastic. And, when we were in Marrakesh, we had this beautiful facility surrounded by all this greenery. When we were in Assyria, our view overlooked the mountains, which was also gorgeous. And if you didn't see the social media posts, go ahead and check it out on Dr. Sadaf OBGYN, because you'll see what an amazing and beautiful space this was. And if you would like to join our next retreat is going to be next year in September as well. I believe the dates are somewhere around September 19th through the 26th. We'll be putting out a wait list. The wait list is already up in the link in my bio on my socials, that you can go and put your name on the wait list and join us next year, because there is so much that you will gain from being in such a warm and welcoming community, not only within our retreat, but also within the larger community that is in Morocco. And so, you'll get a chance to experience all of that. And I feel, that I can speak for everyone that joined, is that we all took away way more than what we came in with, right? We all learned so much about ourselves, but also about nutrition, about intimacy, about relationships. We talked about perimenopause, menopause. We talked about treatments. We talked about things to go and talk to your doctor about, and all of those things. And the whole retreat was focused on love and nourish. And it was about loving and nourishing ourselves and our bodies, but also the community around us. So if you would like to be a part of that community and join in that retreat, make sure you sign up on the wait list in the link in my bio, and you'll be the first one to hear about it. And we'll let you know when signups are available. And that's it. So, well, I am done here, and it's been real and really intimate. And I just wanted to jump on and give you a quick recap of the retreat and how amazing it was, and the value that the participants got from it. And this is, of course, not meant to be any type of medical advice or religious advice. And until next time, this is the Muslim Sex Podcast. So thank you for listening to the podcast, and make sure you leave us a review, share and like the podcast. And if you leave me a review, I'd love to shout you out on social media. So be sure that you share it with all your friends. And thanks for listening.